Today we are here with the Graphic Novels Roundtable. We will be interviewing a very special guest. We have Ryan Parrott with us. He is a personal favorite of mine since I'm a huge fan of all his work. And so, without further ado, we will be talking about career in comics and future projects. So, we might get some spoilers or so. Please follow us on our hashtags that we have here on Libcomix Online, and we also do have our Twitter handle on here for you guys to follow. So we have Ryan Parrott, and he is the creator of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Thank you, Boom Studios, for having us and for letting us have this conversation with him. For me, Power Rangers has meant a lot growing up, and so reading Mighty Morphin and Go Go has actually, expanded that kind of universe and made me appreciate it a lot more as an older child now that I am. And this is me. I am Elias. I am actually the youth services technician at the Temecula Public Library. I work with children, but I also do a lot of comic book related stuff like Free Comic Book Day and things like that. And I've been doing this for almost 10 years. So without further ado, let's introduce Mr. Ryan. So my first question for you, sir, is what advice do you have for aspiring writers, especially comic book writers?
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on, man. This is awesome. And you have a much better headshot than I do. I like your pose. It's way better than
Thanks.
mine. And mine's not even color, so like way better. But thank you, man. That was a very nice intro. I appreciate that. To your question, interest. So advice for people who want to break into comic books and so on. Yeah. I mean, the first thing, the obvious thing is read as much as you can. I still try and read 3 or 4 books, not a day, because that's insane. But I just think read as much as you can because it's always changing. The trends are changing. What we considered like a solid comic book, 20 years ago has probably shifted a little bit nowadays. So it's just like understanding the medium. If you want to work in, I'm assuming a lot of people who write comic books want to work in superhero comic books. So obviously the more you know about them and the more you know what's going on, considering that, superhero comics have become such a big mythology base.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, overlapping characters. So you have to, it doesn't, I don't think it pays to just know about, like, you can't just know Batman now. You got to know all
Yeah.
of them in order to write them, right?
I,
Yeah.
yeah, I learned that the hard way. I'm actually a big Flash fan, so I
Hmm.
read all Flash stuff growing up, and then like when Flashpoint came out, and restarted the universe and stuff like that. It's like that was everything I was doing. But then you got to expand and learn about other stuff too. There's
Yeah.
way more diverse cast now, more different different stories now that people can actually tell, and that's why I really appreciate that you are able to take this. This fandom and this series and what you've done with it is actually outstanding.
Oh,
um,
thanks.
I personally, that's why when I first heard that we were going to be interviewing and they needed someone to do it, I was like, I can do it, I can totally do it. So I'm actually such a big fan that I actually have this right here, and I wanted to see if you could give the fans a little bit of a taste of what you actually did in Necessary Evil. So I don't know if you guys can see it right here.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. This is when I first met you, and it was super neat.
Yeah.
And
In
so
it down in was it what city was it? It was
I was in Temecula,
Temecula.
SoCal,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yankee.
I have in-laws who live there, and I'm like, it's one of those two. Which one is it? It's Temecula. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah. So you want to preview what's coming with Necessary Evil at the end here?
Because the
Oh wow.
finale, right? It's going to be coming
Yeah.
up soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because it's been. I think that was like the first one. So that was a year and a half ago. Like that
Hmm.
was when I was still young and idealistic about how that's not gonna work out.
You're like,
Yeah,
that's when I
no.
had black hair. Now all of this is giving me all grays and everything.
Oh yeah, it's all gray. Yeah, I dye it all now. It's gone. This beard's gone, man. I feel so much for like how David Letterman. I'm gonna be David Letterman in about a year. Trust me. No, but yeah, it's been a big. I mean, it's been a year and a half. It's been. I was realizing it's like ends up being like 22 issues of comic books, which is way more than I thought it was gonna be, but yeah, no, it's been we're with 49. We set up sort of the big. We can talk about spoilers, right? We can really do that.
I would probably say yes. Now we
Okay,
can
great.
do it.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we set up sort of the big climax in Safe Haven with Kai and the Anointed against the full might of the Power Rangers and the Omega Rangers. It was been fun because I knew this was what I always wanted to do. I knew it was going to be the final battle was going to be there, so I set up a lot of things that hopefully get to pay off in 50. 50 is going to be, I don't think it's a spoiler. It's a little bit bigger issue. So it'll have extra pages. So thank God for that.
Yes,
Otherwise I
there
couldn't
you
have
go.
fit it. Yeah.
More content.
Yeah. You beg. It's like, hey, can I have like 8 more pages here? Otherwise the fight's going to be one swing.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's over.
which I have accidentally done many times. Yeah, so we build up a lot of things. The point for me for Necessary Evil at the end was, the whole point from the beginning was to try and make because we had sort of erased Shattered Grid from ever happening, quote unquote. The idea was to try and make there be consequences from it, and have people's lives affected by it, even if they didn't know why. And so that was the whole point of Kaya's was her arc was to try and make it so that she was collateral damage from Shattered Grid, and that she would rise up because of it. And so, but at the same time, I wanted to try and find a way to connect everything that had happened. As you've seen, I don't want to give huge spoilers, right? But the idea that like everything that you've read in Mighty Morphin up to this point, hopefully has resonance, and will come into play in 50. Without spoiling it specifically, you'll understand what that means. I think when you
Yeah.
read 50, yeah, you might already know actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
was like, I haven't gotten my copy yet, but it
yeah,
should
but
be
you have
coming soon.
ideas, right? Like you kind of
Yeah.
understand them. So
Mhm.
that the idea was 50 is sort of this way of trying to bring all of everything that's happened in Mighty Morphin over the last 49 issues to sort of make it to have to all of those pieces have to sort of come together to sort of to stop Kai and sort of and have the universe go forward in the way that we all want it to. So that's sort of the best way without spoilers. But
Yeah.
that was the idea. That was the intention of the whole thing was consequences in a way to sort of unite and tie everything together. So hopefully it does that.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I'm like I said, I'm a huge fan, and I really like that. In the beginning, when you actually were able to take the original five, and you actually gave more in-depth character development to like the background characters, because in the show you always know about Jason, you always know about Billy, you always know about Kimberly, and definitely about Tommy and stuff like that. But I really liked how you took the unknowns and like training and stuff like that. You actually made them whole, and you actually did that, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, man. I mean, that was the fun part about those first like 20 something issues of the
Hmm.
Go Go was like I just really because we couldn't change things because you like you watched the show so you knew
Hmm.
that I couldn't change a lot. It was sort of
No,
like doing
it's like it's
episode of
already
the week.
yeah, it's already
Yeah,
set.
yeah, but when it's one of those weird things. It's sort of a, for some people you could look at it as a hindrance. Like, well, we know they can't die, and we know that they're not gonna like no nothing major can change. But one of the things that I actually loved about it was that it freed me up to be like, okay, then why are you gonna read this book? So like, it really turned into how can I find ways to explore areas of the show that had always either frustrated me or areas that I wanted to see have more attention paid, like their personal lives and what it actually meant to be superheroes in a world where you're fighting giant monsters and driving robots and stuff. And what's that like to give that to to a group of teenagers and seeing what that would and trying to treat it as honest and as emotionally real as possible.
Mhm.
And that just opened up a lot of interesting questions to that allow. And that's the nice thing about the show because it was when you have to shove fighting putties and a giant monster battle in every 30 minutes. There's not a
Mhm.
lot of time for character development,
Yeah,
especially
never
on an
know.
ensemble show, right? So it was nice was that we had sort of a base level of. I think you're probably like me, like you know those characters, you like them, you care about them, but
Mhm.
like if you had to really dig into why you like them and who they are, you dig a little bit and there's not much there below the
Yeah,
soil.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like growing up, it was like I mean, I always liked Billy, and I always liked that he was super smart, and I was like, oh yeah, I can totally relate to him because I was like growing up was this huge nerd, so
yeah,
I really enjoyed Billy. But it was like other than that, I mean, when you look back at the show, you only saw him do certain things that would
exactly.
exemplify
Yeah,
that.
and so I feel like that was the sort of the blessing of Go not being allowed to do major plot stuff. I had to try to make it about character stuff. I had to make it about relationships and trying to find ways to dig into who they are, their relationship with their parents, and their relationship with their
Yeah.
significant others, and all that stuff. And that was a fun thing that I sort of realized that was. And weirdly enough, for most people I talk about, I've been running Mighty Morphin now, and I'm doing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle crossover and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And like the thing that people seem to keep coming up to me is they're like, yeah, I like all the stuff you're doing, but I really like the go-go stuff at the beginning. I really like that. So I'm trying to, as we go forward, try and get a little bit of that vibe back. I think that was the hardest thing about Necessary Evil was that because I was introducing a brand new team and a whole new sort of like the whole Omega Ranger element of it all,
Mhm.
it put a lot of characters. I think at one point I was writing like 27 characters per
Yeah,
issue.
you had a lot, and I was like, how is he keeping up with all the different Rangers and who they are and what they're doing, and how are you going to get them all to have a screen time together?
Yeah, and I feel like that was the only, not downside, but the hard part of it at the end of the day was like there just wasn't enough space in each
Yeah,
issue to try and give you the moments that I think that you're talking about. Like, how do we dig into these characters a little bit deeper? How do we find ways to do that? I mean, I feel like specifically the Stone Canyon trio with the Aisha, Rocky, and Adam, I feel like they really have sort of suffered in just only in the sense that we just didn't have the page room to really give them a proper spotlight, and hopefully that will change going forward. So that's so if that's what you like about the Power Ranger
yeah.
comic books, that will be back into the books as they go
Oh, that is awesome. That is great. Well, thank you for letting me know about Power Rangers. And like I said, a huge fan. And I actually had a couple of questions I wanted to ask you as well. As the other one and the obvious one that I always, and I know I asked you this when you came down here, was who is your favorite Ranger and why?
Oh, I mean, growing up, I think I was, I had delusions of grandeur, so I assumed I just looked like Jason. So I was like,
I can see the resemblance.
"No, you're being too nice." But I think I remember thinking like, "Oh, that's what I secretly look like," and then I was like, "No, you look way more like Billy," which is to be fair, is not a diss at all because David Yost is a good-looking, strong.
Yes.
Yeah, but like I did feel like that's how I was a little. So like growing up, I think Billy was the one that I sort of associated the most with. But like the fun thing about writing the book is that it's really opened me up to sort of liking different characters. Like Trini
Yes,
ended up becoming a
definitely.
character that I didn't realize is like the soul of the Power Rangers, at least the original ones, and this idea that
Hmm.
she really understands, she's really emotionally connected to all of them, and that she has sort of a soft spoken leadership. And it was really funny, I got to talk to Austin St. John about Twee a little bit. Unfortunately, we passed away, and so I
Yeah.
was like, what was she like? And he said that that's exactly how she was in real life, was that she was soft spoken, and that when she wanted to speak she would, and like when she spoke up people listened. And I thought, I want to get that into the character as I write it. I want that to be an element of the character in real life and in the comic book. I take part of real life and put it in the comic. So that's the thing. She's become a character that it's like saying who do you love when you're kids. Like
Yeah.
I'm writing the
You
Ranger
don't have a
Slayer.
favorite.
Yeah, like I'm writing the Ranger Slayer one shot, and Ranger Slayer is a big part of that. And Kim, and I just love writing that character. That's a fun character to write. So like it just depends on the day, really.
Mhm. My next question is who had the biggest influence on you outside of the comics industry, and how did they affect your life?
Just in general in life.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad's a dentist, and my dad always wanted me to pursue any sort of artistic stuff. Like I went to school for art. I went to school to draw. I wanted to draw comic books for a really long time, and then I realized I was never going to be Jim Lee or J. Scott Campbell. So I was like, well, that's not going to work out. So I was like, but I realized I sort of liked the stories more, and so I sort of shifted from art, and then I went into filmmaking and comics and all that stuff. So my dad has always been very. I know a lot of people have parents who are sort of like, well, what's your backup plan, kids? Like, I'm
Yeah.
really happy you're excited for art, but my dad's never said that, and he was always just like, I want you to be happy. I want you to do a job that makes you fulfilled and you get excited to work on every day. Because everything you do definitely eventually becomes a job. And even
Yeah.
if you love it, it gets hard, especially the more successful you get at it. It's something I didn't realize. And so I think my dad has had a huge impact on that because he was just he's always backed me in every single play. And so and I think sometimes, especially when you're doing creative stuff, it can be so there can be days when you look around and you're like, wow, it just feels like I'm not making any headway, or
Yeah.
it's been a year and I'm in the exact same space. And like to have somebody there to support you and go, you know what, just keep trying. I think can make all the difference. And so yeah, I feel like that's probably the one of the most influential. But creatively wise, I think it just depends on. Um, I had a teacher. This is a quick thing, but like I had a
That's
teacher when
okay.
I was at Reno, and I was like, I'm gonna go. I was in art class, and I had this guy named Dr. Rosenberg, and I got a C in his class my first year because I was dating a girl in another city, so I kept leaving on the weekends, and I was just failing his class miserably, right? But like after about a year, I came to him and I was like, hey, I want to go to film school. And he turned to me and I was like, and I don't have any. When you go to film school, you have to create like a portfolio of things that
Hmm.
you've done, and you have to. And so he was like, he goes, you know, Ryan, He's like, you're one of the most talented kids I had in my class, but you're just the worst worker. Like you're just terrible. He's like, but I really think you got promise, and if you really want to do this, we'll help you. And so he lied.
Oh my goodness.
He wrote like 2 letters of recommendation saying I audited all his film classes, and I never did. And like he really, if he ever hears this, I apologize. I'm throwing you under the bus right now. It's been years. But he did all this stuff, and he wrote up these glowing letters of recommendation and said all this stuff. And literally, one of the reasons I got into film school. And so, like that guy, just thinking that I had talent, but knowing that I didn't have the drive yet, was also a really big moment. Because if he doesn't do that, I
Yeah.
don't think I get into film school, and I don't think I ever do any of this. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can totally relate. My art teacher was my biggest drive. Sucked at drawing for forever, sticks and stuff like that, just drawing like little stick figures and stuff. But no, she gave me an award when I was in 10th grade, and she said, out of all of them, she's like, you're the one that puts heart in it. And so as long
mm,
as you got heart, you just got to keep going with it. And I've
yeah.
been doing dabbling here and there, but this is pretty neat. This is what it's brought me to.
Are you still drawing, or is that still is
Yeah,
that what?
yeah, no, I
Okay.
still draw. I draw like for fun and stuff like that, and I just have a couple of characters and things. But like I said, it's the comic books like these, that inspire us in order to continue, doing our stories and stuff like that. And so I
Yeah.
really thank you for it. Um, but talking about drawing and artistic and being creative, what do you do in particular to recharge your creative batteries?
Oh man. Well, I'm starting to learn that I've been very lucky the last like year to be doing a lot of comic books. The people at Boom have put a lot of faith in me, and I can't tell you how happy it's incredible to be able to give that much. And it's been fun. And because of that I've gotten other opportunities. And so I've discovered that like sometimes you just don't have time to recharge your
Mhm.
battery. Like you literally just like you've got
Just
to.
gotta go next.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes recharging the battery is actually stepping to another project.
Okay.
Um, yeah, if you I don't actually prescribe to the idea that if you just sit there and slam your head against the wall with a story problem or with a creative issue they're dealing with, that you're always going to fix it. Like sometimes just
Mhm.
stepping away for 10 minutes, going and taking a shower or going for a walk, get in the car, drive around, that can give you sort of like small refreshers, like just like I remember, like, so I have a lot of coffee shops that I don't go to anymore, obviously, but there's like 3 coffee shops that are around my house, and sometimes I'll go to one and I'll write in the morning, and then I will work all day, and I'll hit a speed bump, right, with like a beat or a moment, and I'll be like, I'm gonna walk home to just get some food. And it just never fails. On the walk home, which is like a 2-3 minute walk, I will come up with more answers and more solutions than the 3 hours I sat at that table
Oh
looking.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just like freeing up your mind, like just changing your setting, changing a little bit of your routine, and then allowing yourself to sort of to drift, I think, can open up a lot of those creative barriers. So like in small bit, that's the way I deal with small stuff. The larger stuff, just read, good stuff in, good stuff out. Always, if you watch classic movies, read books outside of, it's good. Look, I love superhero comic books and stuff, but like finding comic books that are not superheroes, that are outside the genre that you
Yeah,
would normally pick up,
that's
it
yeah,
can really change the way it can give you, little, it can help you take little things away from all of the stuff you read, and that's how you end up creating a voice, is by sort of sort of assimilating all these other little creative beats.
yeah, like getting like a palate cleanser, as they call it. Just read something else and then go back into superheroes if that's what you
Yeah,
like and stuff like that.
even a round of Beat Saber can clean your brain. Just do
Yeah.
that.
That is awesome. Well, I appreciate the advice. My other question is, what's next for you? What do you have in mind, and what are your big plans for the future?
Well, I am.
I mean,
Uh,
if you can talk about
yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, it's yeah, man. If you ask me like 3 weeks from now, things could, but who knows? It's a very interesting time we're living in right now, and everything's very. But I will say this: I'm staying on Mighty Morphin.
Okay.
I wrote a Ranger Slayer one shot, which is
Mhm.
we're gonna go back to the Coin This Universe and see what's been happening there. This was something that Dan Mora, who I originally did the first run of Go with, Dan and I talked about wanting to work together again, because I was like, I really miss working with him. I love all the artists I've worked with, but like Dan is just somebody that I really vibe with. And so we just discussed. We came to Boom and we're like, we want to work together again. They're like, what about doing a Ranger Slayer one shot? And he fit into his schedule. And so
Wow.
that is something that I'm super excited about because that it's a little more like a movie. I just
Yeah.
get to do all the stuff that I wanted to do, and then
Nice.
I can kind of let it go, and I don't have to deal with it anymore. If that makes sense, like someone else might deal with that,
Yeah,
which is
there you
great.
go.
Yeah, so someone else is like, all right, I raised you. Now go be with, go with God. So that's the first thing we're doing. The Ninja Turtle stuff, obviously, that wraps up in the next month. So Ninja Turtles is over. But so hopefully, I don't know any. There's no news on this. It's not really a spoiler. If
Mhm.
there's an opportunity to do that again, do another Mighty Morphin Power Ranger Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle crossover, I would do it in a second.
Yeah.
So hopefully, see what happens. And I already have ideas, just FYI. So that's the other thing. And then I'm going to stay on Mighty Morphin for the significant future. Like I don't plan on
Yeah.
leaving it anytime soon. I have some more stories we're building out right now and developing. We've been doing that for a while now. I think that's the other thing about people don't realize with comic books is like when it comes out, I'm 4 months ahead of you guys. You know what I mean? Like so, it's like I've written the next 4 issues and I'm already developing the next thing.
You're
So
like, I
it's
already know what happens. And
yeah, yeah. It's not even that. It's just this like, wow. It can feel like you're not doing anything, but you're like, it can all stack up. And then I have my own creator-owned book. I have a book called Dead Day that should be
oh,
coming out. I
nice.
think it's coming out either in April now, or it might be in May. It might be in May now because of the shift and stuff.
Oh, that
Well,
is
we'll see.
awesome. Well,
Yeah,
that'll be neat. I
yeah.
will be super excited to check it out.
Thank you,
um, so since we're talking about crossovers, is there a possibility now that the brands are together that, and I know my friend and I asked you this last time, that you would do some sort of Power Rangers slash Transformers sort of like origin story slash crossover?
I do remember this. This is a conversation I specifically remember because I think
Yeah.
I said something, and then like 5 minutes later, I was like, "Stop talking," because if you ever use, you can't tell them because you might use
Yeah.
it. um, Look, I will say this: I think crossovers are really, really awesome. In that there's so much fun mixing and matching
Mhm.
and like it's always fun to find those similarities between the brands that you're like, well, obviously, and like those giant robots, they have giant robots, like that seems
Yeah.
like that fits. So there's a lot of fun ideas. I don't know anything about that. Boom has, but I will say this: I think there seems to be an appetite for them. I know that the Justice League one did pretty well. I know that the Power Ranger Ninja Turtle one, I think, feels like people really like it. So I feel
Yeah.
like if there's appetites for that and people like it, then never say never. I think you and I, if we sat here for 20 minutes, we could probably come up with some pretty fun ideas.
We
Uh,
could. I already have a list of them right here.
well, that's awesome. Yeah, so like that's I think that thing. I feel like that's the point. It's just like as long as people want it and I think the fact that they're owned by the same company probably makes that a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't have any actual
Fingers crossed.
information. Yeah, but yeah, I would never say never, man. I think those feel the thing about the Ninja Turtle Power Ranger crossover is like it felt like that so obviously should cross over, and I feel like when something is obvious, eventually the universe listens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that is great, and I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing all these ideas, and definitely letting me talk to you since you're such an important part, especially for the Power Rangers right now. And so I'm super excited, and I want to do special thanks to you and to Boom Studios for making this conversation possible. Uh, Anyone listening can use the hashtags that are in here in order to follow us and follow us at Libcomix. Right over here is our info. Definitely give Ryan Parrott a follow. He has awesome content. Thank you, Ryan.
thank you, man. Appreciate it.